Okay, 4-hour chart here, and the MACD looks like it is starting to turn and drop, and the RSI as well. Yesterday and the day before, actually, we had, actually I take that back. It was just yesterday, the white band, I keep forgetting. That's when we bombed Iran and took out their nuclear capability, and I guess Wall Street really liked that. So it went shooting up yesterday, made a new high, but we are short of the highest in history high by just a little bit. If I had moved that over just a smidge, I might be able to see it. Here we go. All right, so the highest high that we've ever had was on February 19th, and that was about here, about 40 points above. It came short 20 points, which is hardly anything at all in the grand scheme of things. So there is the potential that when we come that close to reaching a high, it's definitely acting as a ceiling, but yet it wants to go up to that point as well. So the fact that it didn't quite do that is really the only reason I think it might be going up at this point. However, I think the likelihood of it dropping is a lot more, especially after such a great big day, and overnight it went up a little bit further even. So more likely the scenario will be that it will drop, and it will probably drop to the previous day's value area high, at which point the SMAs will be going up to that point, and then it probably will bounce from that point if the news plays that out, and it will head up and hit that high from the 19th. That's my guess. So that's kind of more of a really long-term, over a few days and weeks kind of prediction. But again, it's really important that we focus on the smaller term charts when we actually make the trades. So we can see on the 15-minute chart if it is going to be dropping, so that's kind of our scenario. If it is going to be dropping, we need to break through this support that we're seeing here on the 15-minute chart. And we can also see the same support in a very similar area on the 5-minute chart. So it's got to get through that before it starts to drop. And I kind of jumped in a little bit too soon here. I kind of realized after I got into it. I got into a short, and I didn't really wait for a good entry point. I should have waited till it went up more to the POC line here, which is the SMAs, of course, and a lower high than the previous one here, before I got into a short. So I suspected it might get up to that point, so that's why I put my stop way up here, which is, as you can see, it would be a $500 loss, which would be tremendous. I do think probably the likelihood of it getting down to this point at 106 is very high. But that might be, especially at this hour, it's only 8:33, might be a little bit much of a drop for right now. So that's probably not the best of trades that I've ever made. And as you can see, it started to head up at that point, right to the point where I thought it probably would go. And I was disappointed in myself. I left my stop alone because I figured it would eventually drop back, and it did. It hit that SMA there and started to drop and got back the losses except for just a little bit, and I sandwiched that very, very tight so that I could basically just get out at a very, very small loss or break even. So got out of that one, and then it started to drop some more. And the MACD looks like it's probably going to be dropping a little bit more, maybe. Not sure that really plays that out very well. I did get into another short here. Not sure that was the best. Nope, I didn't. I got into a long. It's hard to tell here. I guess the blue is buy. That's what it is. All right, so I got into a long thinking that it would go up to that SMA again, which would be a decent trade, except for the fact that my stop has to be so far down here for the, because of the potential of it dropping. So anyway, I'm not sure that was the best of trades either. And also, being in a long when it's kind of downtrending, or my guess is that it's downtrending, that's not very good either. However, it looks like maybe it's going to be okay. Yep, it's going up. So, all right, it kind of petered out at a fairly low point here. And then right at 9:15, it took a huge jump up and took forever to fill. And actually, I think I made more than that exit order was set up to make, if I remember right. I can go back and look. 450. Yeah, I think it actually took it like $225 instead of $150. So that was good. All right, now this is the time to get into a short. And I do believe this is a good opportunity. Let's go back one more time. Okay, so it went up and then it immediately dropped back down, came back up here and wavered a little bit through here, if I remember right. And then it started to look like perhaps it was going to be dropping. And you can see the POC is down here. We have a tremendous amount of flat orders right through here. So that's a great big, I think that would be like a whale smart money area there. So that's something to watch out for. All right, and I got into a short here with a very, very tight stop. And I'm expecting about a $275 trade, which is just about right. And it played around with it for quite a while before it started to drop. Dropped big time, went to the POC, and then took my order. And again, this was one of those times where it was right at opening bell when it dropped way down here, did not take my order, and I was worried that I wouldn't get filled. Unknown error. I think it's just at opening bell, I think the paper trading, it just gets overwhelmed sometimes. So anyway, it finally did take, looks like it took at 117.25, which was exactly where my order was. So that was all good. And that was a happy trade. And I probably could have stopped there. But now it looks looking like it's kind of breaking through that support. And I wouldn't mind making just a little bit more, just because I've had kind of a string of bad luck days. And I thought I could probably do well knowing what the market is doing. So I went out to the 15-minute chart again here, and you can see potential there. However, on the 5-minute chart, it has tested that level and it still hasn't really broken through. So we still really kind of want to be cautious here. The POC from this period of time here, which is overnight and a little bit of closing time from yesterday, is showing that it's, the POC is way down here. All right, looking at this chart, we can see that these two SMAs are getting closer and closer together, and this is a good opportunity to get into a short, I think. This is a really good level. I don't think it'll get far above that. So I got into a short there. My stop is pretty high, and I think it'll probably drop down to those wicks and test that again. You can see it here, almost there, definitely there, and there. So anyway, I do think that's a pretty decent trade. But this is the 5-minute chart. So when I went down to the 1-minute chart, it looks okay, but it ended up going up a little bit and actually stopped me out. It went up to that point, even though I haven't really changed my mind about kind of the general direction it's going. I thought, well, that's not any, I don't want to ride it out any further than that, just in case it does end up going up a little bit too far, and I'll end up getting into a short again. I'll just re-enter that trade, try to get back the losses for that particular trade, because I do think it's going to drop down to that point. All right, so waited for what I thought was a decent opportunity here. We see the MACD starting to turn, the RSI is really starting to turn here, and we have a red candle after kind of a doji situation there. So got into a short and tight stop, and by the time I had already set stop, it had already dropped big time. So really happy with this trade. I put this in right down here. a little bit more conservative than perhaps it was before. So that's good. And it got stopped out again. It went up and hit it. And I did have a really, really tight stop. I'm just trying to be very cautious, trying to protect that, my profits a little bit as much as I can. Okay, so I'm waiting for a good opportunity again. And finally, it came. So I got into a short here, and now we're really seeing the MACD turn. And we have a big, big, big drop. It was really hard to not get out at this point right through here. Let me go back one more time, because it had stopped and kind of bounced and sat there for quite a while, and that is at the POC. So the likelihood of it dropping down to here was a little bit less than I would like to see, but I did wait because I thought it would probably get there. And at this point, I've made, a decent amount of profit here. So I lowered the stop and raised up the exit order just a couple ticks, and I got out, right in there, and ended up making a decent profit for the day. I had to work really hard for that last $137, probably harder than I should have, and I almost lost it all in the meantime. But I ended up making $525 for the day. So anyway, that's that day. Thanks for joining me.